ApplePsyche.
Disclaimer. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of major spoilers for Baldur's Gate 3 in this video. If you haven't played it yet and still plan to, be sure to play it first before you watch this video. Anyway, Astarion is the only character I did not like when I first started playing this game. I mean, the first thing he ever does is just straight up attack you. I try to be the bigger person and walk away from Sun, but then he want to come up and start wrestling with me and shit, pulling out a dagger, putting it to my neck like he about to take my life. I'm looking at Gil and Shadowheart and they looking back at me like a surprised Pikachu and shit. Like, bro, what the fuck? Y'all gonna help me or just watch me? That was one of those moments where you got to sit back like, yo, is these people really your mans for real? Because like I'm over here about to die and they just watching. Like I had to really use my strength dice roll and knock some sense in this guy. And it's crazy because from this encounter alone, I was really ready to just write off Astarion because what the fuck? What kind of introduction to a character is that? But I'm really glad that I didn't and that I kept him around for the long term because the payoff for his character was definitely worth it. I never really liked the rogue or thief role in any kind of roleplay game, mainly because it relies a lot on manipulation and deception and being sneaky and stealthy, and that's just not my style of things. See, I'm very direct. I like things up front, I like things in your face. A rogue or a thief can be a threat, but I feel like they have more of a long-term stealth poison type of game, and I'm not here to sit with you and play that out for a few turns. I'm a real simple man when it comes to these games. I like high damage, and I like the ability to be able to support my team just a little bit. When I started playing this game, I started out as a bard, which eventually started to piss me off because I thought that this guy was going to be real inspirational and motivational and be able to convince people that they can be better versions of themselves, and I'm sure to an extent he could do that, but he was hitting like a bitch and I didn't like that because like, bro, you can't be talking all this stuff about how people can be better versions of themselves and you not being a better version of yourself. So I had to change it up and I went with the Oath of Vengeance Paladin because that just sounded way better. Like, what do you mean I'm a paladin that's bounded by an oath to do the right thing in a sense? I'm supposed to make those judgment calls and take out the greater evil if necessary. That's some cool ass shit. I definitely was happy with my decision because once you cross that level 5 threshold, because it did take a while, but once you finally do, you're able to one-shot people and take out people that you should not be able to take out yet. But like I was saying with Astarion, he wasn't really my style and there wasn't really room for him in my team comp. See, I usually ran a main healer in Shadowheart, a wizard for spells and magic attacks, which was typically Gale, and once I unlocked her, obviously I had Karlach on my team, and I built her as a giant that could throw shit, because if you really upgrade her and optimize or really min-max that throwing thing, you can have her doing like 57 damage per attack. When I played this game, every battle for me was Blitzcrank, high speed assault. I wanted to get in there and get out, but Astarion was more designed for people that like the tactics part about tactical games like this, and for a long time I forgot he was even in my camp, but I was soon reminded when this scene came up. Yeah, can you believe this motherfucker trying to sneak up on me and trying to take blood from me? Like, what the fuck, bro? Now I get it because he's a vampire, but really thought I was gonna be a heavy sleeper when I got ops out here? I still owe 30,000 gold to a damn ogre. I slaughtered all the goblins. You thought I was really about to just be sleeping through you walking up on me like that? You can't do that to me, bro. And then he did confess, basically saying that he wanted to take my blood. And I was tripping at first, but then when I started hearing him out, I was like, oh damn, bro, now that's crazy because yeah, your master did do that to you. And you know, it's really crazy because he did give you those rats, and like, you know, that's wild. Like, you know, I really started thinking about it and started being compassionate and sympathizing with my homie, and I'm like, you know what, I give you a little bit of blood, bro, but I thought it was gonna be on some like I slit like a little thing or like pricked my finger and let that shit drip in like a bowl or a cup, like, now I don't know, weird shit, but I thought it was gonna be on some like, yo, like we homies, like we boys type shit, until I see this scene, and instantly I had to hit that quick reload because what you thought this was, bro, that's not where we're going. That's the wrong direction, not what I signed up for. No disrespect to you though, you seem like a cool guy. Try to give this dude an inch and he took a mile. Pause. But after this scene, I forgot about him again until we ran into the monster hunter by the hag's house, and I was like, wait a second, why is this guy looking for Astarion? Told Astarion about it. He said that Cazador sent some people after him because he's really trying to get his people back, and I'm like, damn, that's crazy, bro. And when I was looking at my character's options, I saw that there was an option to be protective over Astarion, and when I started reflecting and think about the type of character that I wanted to be and how I wanted to conduct myself in this game, I ultimately decided to not blow Astarion's cover and to keep it pushing. I started to pick up that Astarion often spoke from a place of fear and inferiority, and he had this obsession with power because he felt that if he got powerful enough, then he wouldn't have to fear anybody anymore. And to some extent, I hear what he's saying. It also started to make sense when he was really quick to try and jump to Raphael's deal next. This guy was clearly going through a version of Stockholm Syndrome on steroids, and when I thought about how everyone in the camp had something they were going through, I figured after a while that this guy isn't any different, and I should give him some grace, the same grace I was giving everyone else, including Lae'zel, because she was on some bullshit too at first, but I did like her payoff at the end, but that's another video. I didn't agree with most of Astarion's chaotic neutral ways, but I did try and encourage him at every point that I could to be a better person. I encouraged him to advocate for himself, to embrace his freedom and make his own decisions, and he started to pick up what I was putting down, at least a little bit, I think. I saw glimpses of my fruit during the Emerald Grove when after we saved it, he seemed somewhat happy to be respected and honored as a hero. But we don't actually learn much about Astarion until Act 3. Once you enter Baldur's Gate, you know, the name of the game finally, like we made it, and you run into this random house and see two of his spawn brethren. And immediately from seeing how brainwashed and indoctrinated they are, I'm like, damn, yo, this Cazador dude is crazy to be having like 18 different Astarions running around, like believing in him and shit. For you to convince people for hundreds of years, like, you gotta be doing something right, even if you might not be a good person. But immediately, because Astarion obviously had a little bit of character development, he started developing in the wrong way, and he tries to catch a body. And I had to talk him off that roof because he was one She-Hulk jump away from turning into Cazador number 2. Too far. But after talking him down from that ledge, he reflected on his decisions a bit. I figured that this was a moment for him to do some inner work and be better than who he was expected to be by his former master. Because if his brother and sister were anything like him, then they just needed some grace because they're no different from him. And they also didn't get to experience the tadpole, so they didn't get to experience a different side of life. But he did, and I wanted to make sure that he remembered that different side of life.
You sound surprised. I am capable of doing the right thing from time to time. They're no threat to us. And they have no choice but to do Cazador's bidding. I pity them.
But the other siblings that try to run up in my camp? Oh nah, they got smoked. And no remorse too, because you're not gonna run up in my shit think you could steal my homie Astarion and also try and fuck with us while we sleeping. Like, bro, that's the one thing I don't play with, bro. Don't mess with me while I'm sleeping. I'm gonna be mad when I wake up, that's for sure. Once we get to Cazador's palace and Astarion starts getting cold feet, I really respected him because he's confronting literally everything he's had to face in the last century or two. And it was interesting seeing how the other spawn was like frantically doing something. It was obviously a direct parallel to the House of Hope, or Raphael's domain. It shows even more why Astarion was so willing to jump from Cazador to Raphael. It's kind of like jumping from one dead-end job to another. One's paying $8 an hour and the other's paying $10. You know, plus torture and abuse and a little bit of slavery. But at a certain point, you're just looking for the highest bidder. It's like between garbage and shit. You're gonna choose shit or you're gonna choose garbage. The palace was riddled with lore, especially regarding why Cazador is who he is. But the way I interpreted it is that they were trying to warn us more about what Astarion might become rather than trying to humanize Cazador, because we haven't had any time with Cazador, nor should we care about Cazador. So when we finally break through that big mystical door and get down to the basement, and we see all of the people and children that were tricked over the years by Cazador's spawn, it's a crazy reveal because although you might have had an idea that Astarion might be just a little bit fucked up, you don't really know how fucked up he was in his past. But I could see that it was a point of self-reflection because he had to realize and see that you can't really escape your past, even when you're on the path to being a better person.
I know you. You're the one from the tavern. You smiled and joked and got me drunk.
No. You're dead.
You called me so many sweet things. My name sounded like a lyric on your tongue.
Sebastian.
You remember me.
Astarion's former flame delivered everything he said with like both astonishment to see him again, but with this deep venom and resentment because he's face to face with the man that literally ruined his life. And not just for the short time that he was supposed to be here as a human, but his immortal life too, because he had to spend centuries trapped down somewhere, barely knowing what's going on, eating rats to survive. No one should have to go through that. It's like, imagine you meet somebody and they just swoop you off of your feet, make you feel like the most important person in the world. They end up being your first in every area, and then they just lure you into some deep dungeon as some random vampire lord, and he locks you and feeds you rats for a century. I feel like anyone will be pretty pissed off about that. But Astarion also has to confront the children he stole as well, who he really didn't seem to care as much about, which is funny. It was kind of like, oh yeah, I forgot I stole y'all too. But we walk a little further in and we see people hung up in this big circle, and finally we're about to confront Cazador. And then this is Cazador. Because what do you mean this guy had you terrified and eating rats for centuries? But when you really really think about it, it makes sense. A lot of the time, just because someone is big and imposing, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have the charm, wit, and understanding of how to manipulate people to manipulate people. It's usually the person that's unsuspecting or maybe unassuming or perceived as unassuming that's really smart and knows exactly how to get what they want and how to keep people fearful of them. So anyway, these two start bickering back and forth. Astarion gets hung up and then we fight. And this boss fight was really annoying, to be honest, but when you finally defeat him, Astarion finally gets his get back, or he gets his chance to. He walks over and he looks Cazador in the face, and then he realizes something. Going back to what we talked about earlier, he believes that if he has a whole lot of power, then he never has to be afraid of anybody. And that's when I had to be on my Naruto. I used my talk no jutsu, rolled the dice, and convinced him that this isn't the move. Astarion gets his well-deserved revenge on Cazador as he slaughters him, and then we collectively decide to free all of the spawn and walk away. It's funny because a few days later I spoke to the person that initially put me onto this game, and she told me that she had a completely different sequence of events as it relates to Astarion, because she ended up losing him in the middle of the story, or like he left or some shit. And that's the amazingness about this game, is that things can constantly change and you can have a completely different playthrough than somebody else because there's so many little choices that lead to so many big payouts or whatever. But anyway, this is where Astarion's story concludes for a bit, with him turning over a new leaf and deciding to take control of his life, but most importantly deciding that he doesn't want to be like Cazador. Instead of being like everything that he knows, he's going to embrace what he doesn't and choose to be his own person. And after I defeated the Absolute and the Elder Brain and all this stuff was taken care of, the tadpole disappeared, and now Astarion is exposed to the sun. And I got scared because I'm like, no, ain't no fucking way we did all this shit just for Astarion to die right here. That would have sucked. Luckily, that's not how it played out. I was very relieved to see in the final scene of the game, where you get to say farewell to all of the characters, Astarion was right there smiling. He tells us about how he's fully embraced the good guy role, and now he uses his powers and abilities to hunt down bad people. And he doesn't look like he's doing it begrudgingly. He looks fulfilled by this work. He looks fulfilled by being the person that he is. And he also embraces the fact that he's a vampire, and he may never walk in the sun again. But in that, he expresses his gratitude for everything that he's been through and everything that he is today. Definitely one of my top 3 stories in this game. I like these realistic approaches to people changing into what they never thought they'd be. The cool thing about psychology is the thing that can make someone bad can also very well make them good. Being stubborn can make someone domineering and controlling, but it can also make that same person loyal and uncompromising in their values. I definitely gotta check out some of Larian's other games because this one was so amazing. After a little hiatus, of course, because I've been playing this game for the last few months and it's really like the main game that I've been playing. So it's just, you know, it's long. I like long games, but this one, it took a while. But yeah, let me know how things played out for you when you played this game. What happened to Astarion? Did he end up like this? Did he end up a little different? Tell me about your experience in the comment section. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care and deuces.
We've had quite the journey, you and I. From the moment I first threatened you, I knew you were someone special. Someone to take on the world with. I will miss our time together. But then again, maybe this isn't goodbye. So much as it's, see you later, darling.